What's going on, Bench Warmers? This is Niko Bryan here. Welcome to the Far End of the Bench podcast. Today, my center attention this past weekend was a massive fight weekend in terms of UFC, and then obviously the shit show that was Friday Night Boxing, which Jimmy and I will talk about a lot more. But as a person that is deeply invested into combat sports, and deeply invested in combat movies, including Gladiator movie coming out this weekend. Free shout out, no free shout outs. This past weekend showed the highs and the lows of combat sports where we're at. Obviously, the co-main event of the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight, Amanda Serrano versus, I can't remember her name. I think it's Katie something. I can't remember her name. I think Katie Taylor, I believe, in the co-main event was one of the best fights at boxing matches I've ever seen. And this is a person that's obviously wasn't around to see Tyson in his prime, wasn't around to see Ali, wasn't around to see Frazier and Rocky Marciano and all these great boxers of their time. And I was pleasantly surprised from the highlights that I saw on Twitter because of the absolute travesty that was Netflix on Friday night. It was very, very interesting and very funny to me. That obviously the promoter of the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson card and the, I think it's MVP Promotions. Jimmy, when he comes back in here after this, can back me up and tell me what the promotion's name is. He said this is going to be the most watched women's sporting event of all time. Probably not wrong, except for the fact that I couldn't watch it along with thousands and millions of people either, because Netflix decided to buffer the whole time. Buffer. And I was like, are we serious right now? And this is a Netflix platform that hosts two Christmas Day NFL games, by the way, and obviously WWE. Jimmy and I love WWE. Monday Night Raw will be exclusively on Netflix starting in 2025. This is a absolute travesty for the sport. And then I don't even need to go in. Well, Jimmy and I will talk more about the Tyson Jake Paul fight and how bogus that was. But what an absolute shit show. Boxing was once great sport, and the women showed that co-main showed how great it can be. If it wasn't for the absolute stagery and showmanship that they tried to do in the main event, it would have been a great card. It would have been absolutely fantastic. And then turn to the flip side on Saturday night. John Jones, one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters of all time, now I sound like Dana White, against Stipe Miocic, one of the greatest, most decorated heavyweight UFC fighters of all time. Absolutely fantastic show. The co-main event did not disappoint either. Michael Chandler Oliveira. It's the highs and lows of combat sports that make me fall in love with it, that make me have these strong opinions about it. I just wish that we can give the UFC as much shit as possible when it comes to fighter pay and all this other thing. Their product never disappoints. Yes, I get it. There's wrestlers and Dagestani wrestlers that are taking over the sport that make it difficult. There are still some high flying, high powered knockout artists and strong submission artists in the mixed martial arts today that's taken over boxing, unfortunately. So I hope boxing could take note of the co-main event that happened on Friday night and instead of trying to put on the show of Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul and try to build on the future generations of the Serranos of the world and the women's boxing, for instance. So it's unfortunate what happened Friday night, but Saturday completely paid off, turned around and paid up for us. So without further ado, let's jump into the rest of the episode.